Hey everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Anime Octopus. Today's topic is a fascinating what-if scenario. What if Hinata Hyuga was sold to the Uzumaki clan? Before we dive in, here's a quick disclaimer. This content is created solely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not own any of the anime footage featured in this video. Full credit goes to the original creators and copyright holders. Let's get started. The bitter chill of the winter wind grazed her soft skin, making her shiver beneath the folds of her oversized coat. The sprawling estate, with its grandiose architecture and lavishly decorated interiors that spoke of immense wealth, felt less like a home and more like a gilded prison. Her only companions were the ever-present servants who catered to her every need, though their attentiveness was more out of obligation than affection. What should have been a warm, nurturing family environment was instead cold, emotionless, and stiflingly lonely. Days turned into weeks as she remained confined within the estate's walls, always under watchful eyes. Any deviation from routine was promptly reported to her governess, who then informed the man she called her father. Despite his presence in the house, he never shared a word with her or joined her at the vast dining table. Instead, her meals were served in solitude, the table meticulously set for one. She often tried to connect with the maids who flitted about the estate, but their responses were curt, often limited to a word or two. The isolation gnawed at her, leaving her yearning for freedom. That day felt no different from the others, except for the gnawing desire to breathe fresh air after being trapped indoors for far too long. Stepping into the estate's meticulously manicured gardens, she found solace in the vibrant array of flowers, their colors providing a brief respite from her monotonous reality. Hours passed unnoticed as she wandered, the tranquility of the garden momentarily easing her troubled heart. As the day faded into twilight, the harsh winter wind reminded her of the encroaching darkness. Reluctantly, she turned back toward the estate, its grandeur looming ahead like a silent sentinel. Inside, an eerie silence greeted her. The usual clatter from the kitchens was absent, and the halls, typically bustling with maids, were strangely deserted. Unease prickled at her senses as she ascended the grand oak staircase toward her room. The stillness felt unnatural, unsettling. Once in her room, she shed her oversized coat and stepped into the warmth of her walk-in shower, letting the steaming water cascade over her. 15 minutes later, wrapped in a fluffy white towel, she dried her hair and donned her nightdress. Out of habit, she glanced out of her large window and froze. A familiar limousine sped toward the entrance, its urgency palpable. Her father stepped out, his trusted advisor close behind. Leaning over the wooden balcony, she strained to catch their hurried conversation. "How soon will they arrive?" her father asked, his tone edged with anxiety. "I'm not certain, sir. But given the chaos at the meeting and the elders' reaction, it's likely imminent," the advisor replied, his voice tinged with nervousness. Her father's expression darkened as he hissed, "That conniving fool. He's taken everything, stolen what's rightfully mine and claimed it as his own. It's infuriating." "And your daughter, sir?" the advisor inquired hesitantly. "What about her?" "She's of no use to me. Now that I've lost everything, the Council of Elders will come for me regardless," her father spat, his words laced with bitterness. The girl's breath hitched, her hands clutching the balcony rail as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. Her father's dismissive words didn't surprise her, but the weight of their implications left her shaken. He had lost everything. What would happen to her now? Downstairs, drawers were being opened and slammed shut as her father and his advisor hastily gathered documents, likely valuables or cash. Panic surged within her. She rushed back to her room, her mind racing as she grabbed what little she could, essential belongings, a few warm clothes, and her late mother's cherished necklace. Amid her frantic preparations, she discovered an old bank book, opened in her name years ago. Though it held some funds, withdrawing them would have to wait until morning, leaving her without means for now. Her heart pounded as the distant roar of engines grew louder. Cars approached the estate, their headlights piercing through the darkened grounds. Her father's voice echoed from below, barking frantic orders that betrayed his fear. Trembling, she stared out her window, her mind flooded with questions and uncertainties. What awaited her in the coming hours? Would she stay and face the unknown alongside her father, or would she finally seize the chance to escape her prison and chart her own path? 3 sleek limousines pulled up at the grand entrance, their polished exteriors gleaming in the evening light. Several people stepped out, their movements purposeful and coordinated as they approached the house. She carefully grabbed her bag and quietly made her way toward the balcony, making sure not to make a sound. She paused, listening intently to the muffled voices coming from below, her heart racing with curiosity. The sound of the front door opening startled her. She crouched behind the railing, peeking out just enough to see shadows moving through the hall. The voices were firm but unfamiliar. Not wanting to be seen, she stayed hidden, trying to understand what was happening. What is the meaning of this? Why are you in my home without permission? Her father's voice rang out, firm but controlled. Your home? Things have changed, Hiashi, came a calm yet assertive reply. The elders of your clan have made decisions that you must now accept. Hiashi sighed, clearly troubled. I am simply collecting a few of my personal belongings. Surely, you can allow me that courtesy? The leader of the group nodded thoughtfully. Of course. But transparency is important. May I ask what you're taking? Hiashi hesitated. That is a personal matter, he said, clutching a bag close to him. The group exchanged glances before one of them stepped forward, a man with silver hair and a distinctive mask. With Hiashi's reluctant permission, the man took the bag and handed it to the leader, who inspected its contents briefly. It's good to see you're being cooperative, the leader said, his tone neutral. We're here to ensure everything is in order. Thank you for your understanding. Hiashi nodded, his expression weary but composed. I hope this matter is resolved quickly. Meanwhile, upstairs, she quietly backed away from the railing. Her father's calm demeanor reassured her, but she still felt uneasy. Deciding it was best to avoid being seen, she made her way toward the guest room. The large window there had always been left unlocked, and she knew it led to the garden. She pushed it open gently, taking a deep breath of the cool evening air. The quiet garden stretched out before her, and she carefully climbed down, feeling a sense of relief as she reached the soft grass below. Back inside, the leader turned to his son, a young man with bright blonde hair. Naruto, pay attention. This is an important lesson for you. Naruto yawned, clearly uninterested. Dad, this is so boring. Can't we go home now? Minato gave him a patient smile. Not yet. These moments are important. One day, you'll understand why we handle things this way. Naruto sighed dramatically but nodded. Beside him, another young man with dark hair, Sasuke, watched silently, his expression serious as he observed the interaction. As she quietly made her way through the garden, the distant voices from inside faded. The cool breeze and the rustle of leaves calmed her nerves. She decided to find a safe place nearby to wait until things settled down. The blond man smiled warmly at his son, gently ruffling the boy's hair before stepping into the disordered office. Several of his men were already searching through the scattered items, hoping to recover anything of value. Calmly, he made his way to the drinks cabinet, pouring himself a glass of whiskey before settling into a large leather chair. His gaze shifted to his son, who stood nearby alongside Sasuke, curiously scanning the room. Suddenly, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the hall, drawing everyone's attention. Minato, we have a situation, one of his men, Genma, announced with urgency. What is it, Genma? Minato asked, his tone calm but attentive. It appears Hiashi had someone hidden here, a daughter. She's managed to escape, Genma reported. What? Minato exclaimed, his surprise evident. Genma handed him a framed photograph of a young girl with strikingly familiar eyes. Minato stared at the picture, his shock growing. She escaped? He repeated, still processing the revelation. Yes, sir, Genma confirmed. Find her immediately and bring her back. I want every available person searching, Minato commanded, his voice firm as his eyes lingered on the image. Turning to his son, he continued, "Naruto, Sasuke, I need you both to join the search. The girl seems to be around your age. Make sure she doesn't get far." Naruto grinned confidently. "Leave it to us, Dad. We'll find her, won't we, Sasuke?" he said with determination, earning a nod of agreement from his quiet companion. The two quickly left the room to begin their search. Alone once more, Minato's gaze returned to the photograph. "You always had your secrets, Hiashi," he murmured to himself with a faint smirk. "I thought you told me your daughter was gone." The freezing temperatures pierced through her numbed body as she sprinted through the dense woodland, desperate to maintain her pace. The sprawling acres of forest, once belonging to her family, now belonged to someone else. Determined not to slow down, she pressed on, her heart pounding as she fought against the biting cold and the fear of being caught. Hinata Hyuga was still processing the shocking truth she had uncovered about her father's secret dealings. The fragment of conversation she overheard had filled her with fear, compelling her to escape. She climbed out of her bedroom window, leaping to a nearby tree branch with desperate resolve. From there, she carefully climbed down and began to run, leaving everything behind except her rucksack. As she moved through the cold night, she became acutely aware of her thin nightgown, which offered little protection against the harsh environment. Her bare feet stung from the rough ground, strewn with twigs and branches that snagged at her clothing and grazed her skin. Despite her exhaustion, her fear propelled her forward, ignoring the protests of her aching muscles and burning lungs. Hinata was the only daughter of Hiashi Hyuga, a prominent businessman and the head of a prestigious clan. Her childhood had been filled with love and warmth, especially from her mother, who had passed away when Hinata was just 4 years old. Her mother's kindness and nurturing presence had been the center of her world. But after her mother's passing, her father became distant and strict, isolating her from the outside world and immersing her in rigorous home education. The estate, though grand, felt like a prison, and Hinata often longed for the sense of family and love she had once known. Her heart ached as she recalled her father's harsh words, dismissing her as unworthy of her lineage. She couldn't help but question if he had ever truly cared for her. What had she overheard about his dealings? Who were these dangerous individuals he was associated with? The thought of being caught by these mysterious figures filled her with dread. Tears streamed down her face as she pushed forward through the cold, dark forest. The estate was isolated, with no nearby neighbors and no means of contacting anyone for help. She had no friends or extended family to turn to, leaving her entirely on her own. Suddenly, her foot caught on a protruding root, and she tumbled to the ground, the chill of the earth biting into her skin. Her body begged her to stop, but she forced herself to rise again, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. The stillness of the forest was broken only by the whispering wind and the distant sound of hurried footsteps. Fear surged through her as she realized she was being pursued. Hinata's thin nightgown caught on a tree branch as she tried to flee, trapping her for precious seconds. Her trembling hands worked desperately to free herself, silently pleading for a miracle. At last, with one final tug, she tore herself free, but not before noticing two shadowy figures emerging from the trees. Their presence sent a new wave of terror through her, but she didn't stop to look back. Instead, she bolted into the shadows, her mind focused solely on escape. Meanwhile, in a different part of the forest, Naruto Uzumaki found himself accompanying his father on an unusual business trip. Minato Namikaze, a respected yet enigmatic figure, was known for his sharp mind and influential dealings across the region. Naruto admired his father and often accompanied him to observe and learn about the complexities of managing their family enterprises. This time, the destination was the Hyuga estate, a sprawling property far removed from the bustling cities. Hiashi Hyuga, the head of the Hyuga clan, had partnered with Minato years ago during a difficult financial period. However, it seemed that Hiashi had failed to uphold his end of the agreement. The discussion had turned serious, with Minato and his associates Kakashi and Obito strategizing the next steps. Naruto listened attentively, learning more about the intricacies of negotiation and the challenges of managing alliances. He followed his father alongside the group of men who deeply respected and admired him, creating an atmosphere that felt like one big, happy family. It wasn't long before a few individuals carefully opened the grand doors, revealing an expansive, elegant hallway adorned with luxurious furnishings. Within moments, a man with long brown hair and pale eyes, his expression a mix of surprise and frustration, began speaking loudly as the group gathered in the hallway. Naruto's father, along with Kakashi and Obito, confidently approached the man, their presence commanding attention. This wasn't an unfamiliar experience for Naruto. He had accompanied his father on similar occasions before, always admiring his father's firm yet fair approach in handling challenges. Naruto stood alongside Sasuke and the others, observing the scene with a keen sense of curiosity and respect. Naruto followed his father, accompanied by a group of trusted associates who held great respect for him. Together, they felt like one big family. As they approached the large estate, a team of men carefully opened the grand entrance, revealing a spacious and elegant hallway adorned with exquisite furnishings. Inside, a man with long brown hair stood, his expression a mixture of anger and shock. Naruto watched as his father, Kakashi, and Obito calmly walked toward the man. This scene was not new to him, he had often accompanied his father on such visits, observing his methods and learning from his leadership. Naruto stood alongside Sasuke, quietly observing every detail. The man clutched a large bag, his hands trembling. At his father's signal, Kakashi and Obito approached the man to inspect the contents of the bag. When they opened it, they found stacks of neatly arranged documents and money. Naruto could tell from his father's expression that something wasn't quite right. "Hiashi," his father said firmly, "you need to explain this." Hiashi hesitated, clearly nervous. His attempt to explain was interrupted by Genma, one of his father's trusted men, who entered the room carrying a framed photograph. "Minato, it seems there's another matter," Genma said. "Hiashi had someone else here, a young girl. It looks like she managed to escape." His father's expression shifted to one of surprise. "She escaped? Everyone, start searching the estate immediately," he ordered. Naruto's curiosity was piqued as his father handed him and Sasuke a task. "Naruto, Sasuke, she's about your age. Help find her and make sure she's safe." Eager to contribute, Naruto and Sasuke headed outside. The estate grounds were vast, surrounded by a thick woodland. The two friends inspected the area, eventually finding an open window near a tall tree, a likely escape route. "She probably headed toward the woods," Sasuke deduced. Naruto nodded in agreement, his enthusiasm growing. The full moon illuminated the dark woods as they ventured deeper, calling out in hopes of finding the girl. Finally, they spotted a figure in the distance, standing near a tree. As they approached, the girl tried to run, her long hair flowing behind her. Naruto gently caught up to her, stopping her with a soft hold on her arm. "Hey, it's okay," Naruto said kindly, noticing her wide, frightened eyes. "We're not here to hurt you." The girl's nervousness began to ease as Naruto offered her his jacket to keep warm. Her delicate features and shy demeanor made him feel protective. "You must be cold," he said, draping the jacket over her shoulders. Sasuke joined them, offering a reassuring nod. "Let's take you back to the estate. We'll make sure you're safe." Together, they walked back toward the estate, Naruto silently wondering about her story and what had brought her to this place. "Come on, let's go. You should behave yourself," he said with a firm tone. The nervous girl tried to resist, but his grip tightened, and she lowered her head, feeling helpless. Realizing she couldn't break free, she followed him as his friend watched in surprise and a bit of amusement. The walk back was quicker than expected, and the silence felt heavy as they approached the familiar entrance to her home. Hinata briefly paused, but was gently pulled along again by the blonde, still holding her arm securely. She felt a sense of unease as the eyes of strangers turned toward her, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Hinata attempted to pull away once more, but the blonde man's gaze, deep and steady, told her it would be best to stop. She reluctantly followed him into her father's office, where a few unfamiliar men were gathered. Her eyes widened when she saw another man sitting in her father's chair. He looked remarkably similar to the one holding her, but older. The older man looked up at her, his blue eyes softening for a moment before settling back to their usual calm. I see you found her. Good work, Naruto, Sasuke, he said with a nod. Hinata swallowed nervously, trembling as she stood before the men, who seemed intimidating. She couldn't help but wonder what would happen now that she was in their presence. So, you must be Hyashi's daughter, the older man said in a soft voice, though she could tell he was the one she had heard earlier. Hinata, too frightened to speak, nodded her head in response, afraid of the consequences of answering out loud. The older man, noticing her fear, raised an eyebrow. Why was she hidden, I wonder? He muttered to himself, before turning his attention back to her. What's your name? He asked gently. Her lips parted slowly, trembling as she gathered the courage to speak. Tears welled in her eyes as she quietly answered, Hinata. Such a lovely name, it suits you. The older man mused. I wonder what we should do with you now. He looked thoughtfully at his son, who seemed a bit troubled. He turned to one of the men in the room. Genma, he called. Yes, sir? Genma responded. Please collect her things. Make sure you gather her clothes and any personal items, the older man instructed. Genma nodded and left the room, accompanied by several others. Hinata's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening, tears falling freely down her face. Most of the men in the room, including Naruto and Sasuke, noticed her distress. I think you're too important to let go, Hinata, the older man said, his voice serious but not harsh. For now, you'll come with us. Do you understand? He gave her no chance for refusal. Hinata, overwhelmed and heartbroken, nodded numbly, too upset to speak. Her tears flowed freely as she collapsed to the ground in shock, surprising everyone in the room. What's going on with her? Naruto asked, his voice filled with concern as he immediately rushed to her side. It seems everything has been too much for her, the older man said, looking down at her with a mix of concern and contemplation. Let's take her back with us. I need to follow up on some things. As Naruto gently lifted her, cradling her in his arms, the older man turned to the others. This is unexpected. I'm not sure what to do with her in the long term, he murmured. Naruto glanced at his father, his eyes reflecting emotions that were once hidden but now unmistakably clear. Minato, who had not seen this side of his son in some time, was taken by surprise. Naruto. I will leave the decision to you. Would you like to take responsibility for her? Minato asked, curious about his son's response. Naruto hesitated for a moment, instinctively holding the girl closer to him. The action caught everyone off guard, including his best friend. I'm not sure. But if it's all right with you, father, I would like to take care of her, Naruto replied calmly. The room fell silent, and everyone seemed taken aback by the young man's decision. Even Minato, who had anticipated many things, took a moment to process his son's sudden choice. If that is what you want, son. Then I trust you, Minato replied, still surprised by Naruto's apparent interest in the girl. Kakashi, please instruct the others to secure the place until I either decide to sell it or make other arrangements. Also, ask Genma to bring the girl's belongings back to our house, Minato instructed. Understood, sensei, Kakashi responded before leaving to carry out the task. Obito. Please prepare the car, we'll be leaving soon, Minato said, noticing his son's desire to leave. Of course, sensei, Obito replied as he hurried to get the car ready. Minato finished his drink, grabbed a large bag full of paperwork, and lit another cigarette. He inhaled the smoke and exhaled slowly, enjoying the moment. All right, everyone, let's head home, Minato announced, signaling the group to move. Naruto and Sasuke followed him, with Naruto holding the girl gently in his arms. Sasuke watched with a hint of amusement as they all entered the luxury car that was waiting outside. Naruto, holding the girl closely, sat down and placed her on his lap, glancing at her as she slept. He then looked out the window, feeling the weight of his friend's curious gaze. Sasuke's smirk didn't go unnoticed, and Naruto began to feel a sense of irritation. He was certain that his actions had been too obvious. Naruto was surprised by his own response to the girl, especially given how quickly he had decided to take responsibility for her. It was a feeling he hadn't expected, but now that it had happened, he couldn't deny it. As the car started and they began their journey back, the silence in the vehicle grew uncomfortable. Naruto could feel the stares from his friends, who were all curious about the situation. And indeed, the girl was stunning. He had never encountered someone with such striking features before. Although he had been fond of girls like Sakura in the past, the girl in his arms was on an entirely different level, and it left him speechless. It was clear now, he could not let her slip away. His protective actions at the estate had made that obvious, even to his father and Sasuke, who had raised an eyebrow. What was happening to him? Thank you, dear YouTube family. This concludes the current part. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more content. Thank you for your support. Regards, Anime Octopus.